Hey everyone, this is Ricky with Spoiler Force Podcast, courtesy of Popluck Podcast. You can find more episodes of Spoiler Force Podcast on Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, YouTube, or on Facebook at facebook.com/popluckpodcast.
This is Chilla of Facts News, and you are now listening to Spoiler Force Podcast.
It's a LP beat.
Hey everyone, this is episode 34 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky. Thank you for tuning in. This is the last episode of 2019. It's crazy that I've actually got this far. Just pushing out content and making episodes, whether it's by myself or with guests. Thank you for listening to my episodes, man. This has been such a growing experience. For those of you who are listening, I am recording on Christmas Day or Christmas night. I'm gonna be uploading this by the weekend, Friday or Saturday, which is probably like the 28th or 29th, I believe, or the 27th and 28th. I'm sorry. So the episode should be up by then. So pretty much this is the end of the year recap where I'm just gonna talk about what I've done this year and what the highlights were. I'm not gonna get into detail with everything because I've done so much. I may jump from like different times, so it's not gonna be like in order at all. Thank you to everyone who's listened to the podcast. Thank you so much because it's so difficult at times to push out content when you feel like no one's listening, and I try to not look at the numbers or the statistics or the followers and stuff like that so that I can keep myself motivated, and it's hard at times when I look at those numbers and I'm like, damn, nothing's moving up, or I lost some followers and no one's watching or listening to my podcast. It hits pretty hard, and I'm learning to kind of just to be self-motivated. And to any content creators out there who feel like they want to quit, don't quit. Go beyond plus ultra. That was my mantra for this year, for 2019, was go beyond plus ultra. My Hero Academia has been such a huge inspiration to me. Just being like Deku, a nerdy kid who wants to chase and pursue their dream. This is something I never thought I'd really do, and podcasting has helped me so much, just mentally and emotionally too. This year, 2019, January, I met Tommy Wiseau. You can listen to episode 5 of my experience of meeting Tommy Wiseau, talking about The Room, his film The Room. And he's been one of the biggest inspirations for me too, because he was someone who was told no all his life, and he just decided to pursue his dream. And 15 plus years later, he's at where he's at right now. He's touring. People love he has a huge following to his film. He's doing what he really wanted to do. It may not have been exactly what he wanted, but he's still pushing out what he wants. So yeah, meeting Tommy Wiseau has been a great experience, and I honestly was not expecting to meet him at all this year, and I just took a chance and I got to meet him. So yeah, make sure you check out episode 5 of Spoiler Force Podcast, because I talk about Tommy Wiseau there. Also, meeting Rob Paulsen was someone that helped me a lot. And Rob Paulsen, he's the voice actor for many cartoon characters like Carl and Yakko from Animaniacs, and Raphael as a Ninja Turtle. When I met him at Michigan Comic Convention in August, man, that was such a game-changing experience and humbling experience too, because he was telling me about how it took him so long to just even get paid for podcasting, and he helped me to kind of just be patient with my craft and with my content and just stay consistent. So yeah, again, thank you, Rob Paulsen. If you're listening to this, thank you so much, because you've been a big help. His story is so inspiring, especially the fact that he's from Michigan. That really helps me a lot too. To Andrew Lee, he's been a huge help for my podcast. Very close friend of mine. He's helped me with my sound quality, He's even helped me with certain things to talk about on the podcast when I didn't have any ideas. He's been on the podcast for several episodes too, so thank you, man, because you've been a huge help. I want to thank my cousin Lee Mong for being my first guest ever. That's back on episode 6. We talked about his Gran Torino experience, and we talk about Demon Slayer too. And I feel like for those of you who are listening, talking about this stuff really helped my relationship with my cousin too. And we're closer than ever now, and doing this stuff really helped. And I love his input with Demon Slayer. He's always calling the shots, and it's crazy because if you go back to listen to the Demon Slayer stuff, like a lot of the stuff he was predicting kind of happened in the manga. So again, Lee, thank you so much, man. Again, listen to the episode 6 where he talks about his Gran Torino experience. It's like that's such a great episode because like just listening to his stories of being on the set and meeting Clint Eastwood, it was really it was such a like jaw-dropping experience. Like I never thought that he'd get to actually meet him in person like that and converse with Clint Eastwood like that. So that was really cool. Thank you to like Chai Meng, Chinmon Yang, Jensen Tranny, DC Reacts, to Mike Logic and Dave Senpai, and Dontarian Kelly, and to everyone that's been on the podcast. And I want to thank all my guests, every single one of you that's been on my podcast this year. I can't name exactly all of you, and if I don't name you, please forgive me. Thank you guys, man. You guys really helped my podcast grow, and I'm forever grateful because you guys are the first guest of the year for me, and it's just even like to agree to be on the podcast, and to make time and the effort to do this to do podcasting with me, because a lot of you guys could have just said no. And you guys did it for free too, and and thank you to Van Brooks too, because Van Brooks is a huge help with my podcast too, and to all of you guys, you guys could have just simply said no, and you guys put in your time and effort to be a part of the podcast. So thank you guys so much for doing this. Again, I can't thank you guys enough, man. Please listen to the episodes with them. Their names are on each title of the episodes. So please check those episodes out and listen to them. They're great guests, and I would love to have them on the podcast again. This has been such a crazy experience with podcasting, especially. And what's funny is like originally my New Year's resolution was to do song covers, and around like August or September, I caught a really bad cough or cold, and I had a very bad sore throat for like a good almost a month, and I couldn't sing anymore, so I stopped. And there's some episodes where like you can hear my voice like coughing and straining, and I still pushed through. And what's funny was I was pushing through for my podcast, but when it came to singing, I just stopped. So I stopped pursuing my New Year's resolution for making song covers every month, but at the same time, I was able to push out a total of 34 episodes within an 8-month span, and I never thought I'd do this. And thinking back to when I started in April, buying equipment, buying my program on my phone, and just doing everything on my phone, and just buying all these little equipment throughout the month. And in May, I recorded my first episode with my iPod headphones with the iPod mic attached to it, and just from there to now, where I'm using a Yeti X microphone, USB microphone to my laptop that I purchased, and this is actually my first solo episode with my new mic. This is such a huge step for me because like I see a bunch of other content creators and other podcasters do something simple like this too. The only thing I don't have is visuals, and I never had visuals, but people still listen to my podcast, which I appreciate so much. I know visuals are a huge thing for podcasting now. People want to see who you are and just see your guests and everything, but I promise I'm going to try my best to work visuals into my podcast soon. I can't promise that for 2020 exactly, but if I do get more money or save more money, and hopefully I can try to pursue that too for my podcast. But especially for 2020, I'm aiming for more content, more guests, more variety. A lot this year, especially I had like a lot of male guests. I had my first transgendered guest, Jensen Tranny. I'm really aiming for more female guests, hopefully next year. I had Jungflu scheduled, but then due to circumstances, she couldn't be on the podcast this year. But hopefully next year she can join the podcast too. But female guest that I'm really aiming for is DC. DC is a Hmong singer and a content creator and model. So I really hope that I can get her for like sometime around February. So hopefully, if you're listening, please consider being on the podcast. It'd be great. This whole experience of just podcasting, it's been a life-changing experience. I had to break out of my mold and be out of my comfort zone and put down my emotional and mental walls to kind of be vulnerable and learn how to take no's or rejections from like guests and whatnot, and kind of just learn to get up and dust off my shoulders, that all that cliche stuff. But it's helped me grow a lot and see what other content creators see as far as like when they get told no and how they push forward and stuff like that. So I'm just barely like putting my feet in the water, and hopefully next year or 2020 I can really push this podcast out and have more followers, more listeners, more subscribers. I'm really hoping that I can try to get a sponsor. That's a huge leap of faith right there. But if I can get a sponsor, that'd be amazing. But yeah, this has been such a game-changing experience for me. And just starting from like doing comic book reviews, anime, manga reviews, movie reviews, to having guests. This has been something that's helped me therapeutically, really, to kind of just nerd out and to just kind of let my emotions kind of go, and to help me to be more stress free, keep my mind more clear and stuff like that. But yeah, like from watching like animes from The Promised Neverland to Goblin Slayer to watching the great summer hit of Demon Slayer, which I thought was the best anime of 2019, to watching anime movies like I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, the Konosuba movie, which was by far one of the most comedic anime films I've ever seen, and even finishing that series, and I never thought that I'd get back into anime really too, and that's been helping me a lot too with my content and just going beyond plus ultra. Yeah, that was the big mantra of this year, right? And just to go beyond plus ultra, and I hope to do that for next year too. The comic books this year were really great. I wish Saga came back, but Saga never got to. I guess the Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples never really like. I guess they're still on their break, really. But this year, the best comic book was probably Deceased. That's the DC Zombies Elseworld stories. That was by far my favorite series throughout the entire year. Deceased was the one that caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it to be that good. Curse of the White Knight was really good, or it is really good still. It's not finished yet. They finished Doomsday Clock this year. Overall, that's a great story. I just feel like they spread it out too long. Having each issue come out like bi-monthly and then having huge breaks and stuff like that was not helpful with the series. I think it's best to just read it all in one go. And The Umbrella Academy, honestly, I haven't read the latest chapters yet or the latest issues yet. I know Volume 3 came out for the trade paperback, but to the point where they had their own show on Netflix. The Umbrella Academy was something I was pushing out, or that I was pushing for people to read and watch this year too. And that was actually something that was really good. I honestly feel like the comic books are still better though, but the Netflix series, if you haven't read the comic books, the Netflix series is really good too. Yeah, and just like reading and watching My Hero Academia, Attack on Titan, just to all like the good films this year: Endgame, Joker, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, The Irishman, Queen and Slim, Knives Out. There's so much stuff that I haven't gotten to review yet because of the guests that I've had this month. So hopefully I can try to find time to talk about these movies too that I've seen recently. Yeah, there's so much that I've done this year, and it's getting more difficult now that I'm getting more guests for my podcast and trying to read all these comic books and watch all these films and review them too. So it's a lot to go over. But again, man, I never thought that I'd get to see myself get this far with my content. I hope that with next year that I can do more. With this year, really, like just doing podcasting too, and kind of going back to like just learning how to mentally and emotionally kind of grow more. It was very difficult fighting through anxiety and having mental stress this year too. Like this is like stuff I don't really talk about, but like behind the scenes, like it was very difficult at times where I felt like I wanted to just quit and stop, but at the same time I'm very greedy with my money. So like I was like, damn, I already invested so much money into my stuff, so I can't quit now. And self-motivation has been something that's I've learned to push myself with too, and I hope that any content creator can find ways to self-motivate themselves, and it's something that really helped me a lot this year whenever I was in my lows and when I had doubts and everything. And it gets hard sometimes, man, like when you have like multiple guests just tell you no or don't respond back or kind of like go around the bushes and say like, yeah, I'll do it, but never reply back after that. It's very difficult at times, and that's why I'm like so grateful to every guest that I have this year, because they didn't have to do it, and they did. Yeah, this has been something that's helped me a lot, and I hope that for my listeners that you guys can find ways to grow with your content too if you're pushing out content as well. And I really want to get more variety of creators, different artists or like painters or whatnot, or even like more female singers. I really want to try to get more cosplayers too, because cosplay is something that I like to talk about. Maybe like some more gamers or more Hmong content creators, really. Yeah, and definitely more female guests. I'm really pushing for that. And just listening to like different podcasts has been helping me a lot too. For 2020 this year, I'm really trying to push more content too. Maybe one of my goals I have written down here is to get more than 40 episodes in 2020. So if like from starting from the first week of January till the end of 2020, I want to have at least 40 episodes or more. So I'm gonna really try to push out content as much as I can, and maybe get a sponsor too. That's something I really want to try to get. I really want to push up my subscribers and my followers and get more feedback from guests through email and stuff like that, more comments. I know I mentioned that just talking about numbers and stuff wasn't great, but it'll really help motivate myself too to push to get more numbers of subscribers by pushing out more content. And if you're listening to this, don't forget I'm still doing my giveaway when Popluck gets to 500 likes or more, or for that's on Facebook. Once we get to 500 likes, I'm still giving away a lot of free like goodies, like comic books, signed comic books by Frank Cho, Funko Pops and stuff like that, and it's just all random stuff. And hopefully that'll help motivate you guys to share my content too. And I'm really looking forward to a lot of things next year, and to just get more content, watch new animes and stuff. To look forward to seeing some series end, like Attack on Titan's ending sometime next year. Looking forward to the Demon Slayer movie, the Goblin Slayer movie, Weathering with You, the Promised Neverland season 2 in October. This year has been such a great year for me. Just a learning experience, and to just push and push and push and stay motivated with my content. I never thought that I'd get this far with this podcasting stuff. I've said this so many times, and I'm so thankful for you guys. And this year has been great. I know there's been major highs and major lows, and but yeah, for me personally, 2019 has been great. I'm gonna try to push out more content again and get more guests. And speaking on guests, I do want to end with this too. Hopefully by the time this episode is uploaded, I can confirm. But I'm gonna try to get LP as my first guest for 2020. LP is the artist and producer that produces the introduction music and the outro music for my podcast. We've been trying to get together for our podcast for quite some time, and hopefully January we can finally link up and talk about his experience as an artist too. And then the week after that, January 8th is a big guest. I'll be having William Hung, the American Idol auditioner. He's now a motivational speaker. I bought his book recently. I'm gonna start reading it once it gets in the mail. Yeah, he's gonna be on the podcast. If he didn't know, I actually announced him back on the Kineng Vang episode, which is, I believe, episode 31. So I'm really looking forward to having William Hung on my podcast, and you should too, because he's a great person. He had his own TED Talk and everything too, so I'm really looking forward to him. Again, man, this year has been phenomenal. Just meeting so many different celebrities, from Ben McKenzie, Miranda Baccarin, Rob Paulson, to having Ari Spears shout me out, Tommy Wiseau, just having all these guests on my podcast again, and just reading and watching all these new TV shows and comic books and manga and stuff like that, and watching all these films. It's been a phenomenal year, and I can't wait to do more for 2020. I really can't. This is the end of 2019 for Spoiler Force Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me. And I hope that you guys continue to help like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, everything. Help push my content, please, because without you guys, I can't do this. I can't do this. And please help share my content. And if you ever want to be a guest, let me know. Just make sure that you guys have something for me to talk about with you too. But yes, I am looking for more guests too next year. And please help share my content. That's all I'm asking. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of the year. see you guys in 2020 and expect more. I'll be having a bunch of new stuff coming out, like a new thumbnail for my podcast, a new music for my podcast, a new introduction, stuff like that. And so yeah, and look forward to my future guests, man. LP and William Hung. Make sure you guys look out for them to stay tuned. As I always say, or try to say in my podcast, continue to read your comic books, watch your anime, and again, go beyond plus ultra, because that is the mantra for my podcast. Go beyond plus ultra. And thank you for listening, and have a good night. If you enjoyed this episode, follow my Instagram at RickyVang92, RICKYVANG92, and follow Popluck Podcast on Facebook.com/PopluckPodcast.